Sometimes we all just need a little help when it comes to fixing up our homes and decorating them. And that's why there's Pinterest, one of the world's largest sites where users can share design, decorating, and cooking ideas for others to get inspiration. And if you're selling consumer goods or advertising, you know that you can make money with Pinterest. The only problem though is there's not a Pinterest API we can use to collect data from Pinterest so we can analyze the market and figure out what are the best ways to make money. Pinterest does offer a limited API where you can embed stuff on your site, or if you're an advertiser, you can track conversions, or if you own a website with content, you can serve more information on your pins, but there's no way to scrape data through an official Pinterest developer API. What's interesting though is if you click on apps or telling you want to build something, you'll be directed to this page with this big annoying message saying that, hey, we're working on something, but it's not ready and you can't use it. Well, if you subscribe to this channel, you know that a lack of an official API doesn't mean we can't legally scrape the data using an alternate approach. I'm going to show you in the rest of this video a completely legal way to scrape data from any website such as Pinterest using the link in the description by manually using the website in full accordance with the terms of service, and then using a tool called the HAR file web scraper, which is a freemium tool that I offer. Full disclosure, we're able to get structured data out of Pinterest in very little time. We're then going to analyze this data and do some basic visualization, so keep watching if you'd like to see that. So let's say I want to scrape a large sample of pins for a specific topic. I'm going to go to Pinterest and right-click on the page, then hit Inspect. This is going to open up my developer tools on my web browser, and I can see in the Network tab that it will begin recording all of the raw network data that Pinterest sends to my browser. So now I'm going to search for something. You can pick anything you're interested in, but I'm just going to pick Independence Day pictures because they recommended it. And you'll see on the bottom there's more network traffic loading in. And it can be a little bit tricky though to find the actual raw data behind some of these pins because they load a lot of weird TypeScript things. But if you check out this request here, you'll see the response data, and I can click through here and I can see a list of all the little pinned items on the screen. So I can see the first item here corresponds to the first item on the screen talking about Bangladesh Independence Day. Not exactly 4th of July in America, but it's still related to the search. I can see a lot of other data here. I can see the URL that it'll take me to. I can also see a lot of information about who posted it, the pinner they call it, like how many followers they have, etc. And if they're posting a product, there are other things that you can see here, like the number of reviews for the product, the price, and a few other goodies that may help you with your marketing research. The question though is, well, how can we get more of these pins? So Pinterest is famous for having this endless scroll. And you can just keep scrolling through all of the pins here, and Pinterest will keep sending more and more of this structured data into your web browser, similar to how you would paginate through an official API. And once we're done scrolling, we then want to download all of the individual responses from Pinterest for each little scroll that we did. However, in our network tab, we see that it's a little bit difficult and Pinterest makes it a little bit unclear where the data lives. So for example, these two requests look like two scroll requests, but to get this data out, I'm going to suggest using a different approach called HAR file export. You just click export HAR and then your browser will export a single HAR file with all of this data in one place. And once you see your HAR file, you can see how big it is. This one's over 200 megabytes because it has all of this data from all the network traffic from Pinterest. To process this HAR file, you can use this free tool, link in the description, which will let you upload your HAR file here and then process it in the browser so it's secure, and it will group together similar requests so you can quickly download all of the structured data. So here it's showing this first group, which has a lot of fields, over 1,000 different fields, and we can see references to all of the images also stored in the HAR file, and the individual requests are here. But if we look at the actual URLs, this looks kind of weird. This looks like it's a lot of logging, or the data may just be about our own users. So I'm going to recommend we ignore that first group and instead look at this second group, and we look at the fields here and we see they look like they have a lot more to do with pins. Like you can see summary for a pin. There are a couple other things like when was the pin created, is it promoted, meaning it's an ad, etc. So this group of requests looks like where the interesting data is, and I can see this also has a lot more media. This has over 1,000 images linked to in the HAR file for what look like pins and the associated users behind those pins. And the URLs here all are uniform, so this looks a lot better. And I can click on this little button here. This is available on the free tool, and it'll download the raw JSON directly from Pinterest so I can examine this, and I can see the results here. This looks like data having to do with every pin that I scrolled through. I can see the rich summary here. I can see the title like we saw earlier, the Bangladesh Independence Day. And we can see the URLs to the images as well as other things like IDs. And here's some data about the actual pinner. And like I mentioned earlier, if we search around, there's some information on pricing and the number of reviews for when the pin is linked to an actual product, and these can be promoted or not. So if you're into advertising or selling on Pinterest, this data may be useful so you can figure out where there's a market for selling on Pinterest. So you can keep downloading these individual files one by one and save them to your computer and write your own programs to process the data using the free version of this tool. However, there is a paid version that will do all of this work for you if you don't feel like reinventing the wheel. Any paying Stevesie data user will see this parse button, which will magically translate all of the combined JSON files together into single collections. So here I can say I have 818 rows, all corresponding to the pins that we scrolled through. So I don't have to combine all those messy JSON files together, and the Stevesie platform flattens everything into more usable CSV collections like I'm scrolling through here with all of the relevant data. Like I can see the names of who pinned it, and as well as what's being pinned, links to the images, descriptions, and a lot more. I can also see things like pricing and reviews for product pin types, which again could be very useful for commercial purposes. Such as if you wanted to download all this data in Excel in a single click, you can do that, open it up and do your own analysis, or upload the CSV file to your own database or wherever you need to make use of this Pinterest data. For example, you can upload this CSV file to Google Drive so you can look at it in Google Colab and do some analysis on these Independence Day data posts we just looked at. So here I'm loading the CSV file into Pandas and I'm taking a look at the raw data frame. So this will look a lot like Excel, and we'll find there are a lot of useless columns we don't actually need. So in the next step, we're going to create a new data frame, and we're only going to be creating the columns we care about. So here you can see I'm adding a few things in, like the title, the URL, the person who pinned it, and some statistical pieces of information we can look at, like the follower count of who pinned it, if it's an advertisement or not, and also things like the price and inventory for products. So here I want to look at the ones that are promoted. So I can see a couple examples. This thing here is Eagle Flag, so it looks like they're selling a flagpole for about $46, has pretty good reviews on Pinterest. And then there are a couple other ads here, and they take different approaches. This one here is by Target, and they're selling a specific item for fireworks, it looks like. Then we have another general branding ad for Squarespace, which just tells you to buy stuff on Squarespace. And we can see the difference in follower count, with Target having nearly 4 million followers on Pinterest compared to Squarespace's measly 290,000. And in addition to this, I also want to take a look at each pinner, e.g. Target or Squarespace, and take a look at if they have organic posts or promoted posts. So for each row, for each pin, I'm going to have a numeric column, 1 or 0, so I can get the sum for those. And then I can group everything by the pinner or the publisher. And for each pinner, I want to see their follower count, the average price of their product if they offer one, then how many posts in this data set are organic and how many posts are promoted. So I'm interested, is Target only running ads, or do they have an organic reach as well? So in this first visualization here, I'm just looking at the follower count graph so we can see this extremely long tail of people on Pinterest with very few followers. We can see the scale starts at 4 million, and by the time we're even halfway up, we still barely scratch the surface. All of the followers are up here at the very top of the graph on Pinterest. I've never seen anything like this in a social network before. And furthermore, these top follower accounts all appear to be major brands. I don't really see a lot of smaller names or unknowns that are kind of more up and coming like you'd see on Instagram or YouTube, where you have a lot of smaller influencers but who have amassed a lot of followers. Here it only seems to be major brands on Pinterest who have a large following. And the next thing I want to know is, well, are these large brands, are they only running ads to get followers, or do they have organic posts as well? So here I'm going to graph the same thing ordered by follower count, but by the bars I'm going to show the organic number of posts and promoted posts in our sample of data on Independence Day pins. So I can see in the data that there's actually a hybrid approach. It looks like some of the top brands like Target and Home Depot post both organically and paid posts to promote their individual products. So this makes sense. It seems that they've built a following using organic posts, And then when they want to sell something at the right time and place, they use paid posts. Some other brands like this Storehouse who post a lot, and also Etsy, all have white bars, meaning that they never posted anything paid, and all of the posts we scraped are all organic. And I see this a lot. I don't see any tall red bars, meaning that if you're going to post a lot, you're going to do it organically. You're not going to flood Pinterest with ads, which is probably for the better. As we scroll down this tail, by decreasing follower count, we see a lot less red bars, and more people with fewer followers are posting organically, which suggests that the ads are only effective for larger, well-known brands, and if you're an unknown with very few followers on Pinterest, ads aren't going to help you to break in, otherwise more people would be running them. And lastly, let's take a look at pricing, e.g. sometimes when people post either organic or paid posts on Pinterest, they're promoting a specific product at a specific price, and they have reviews, and you can click to check out. So here are all the different pinners on the x-axis, and the y-axis shows us the price. So you can see the most expensive item here is $500, and this is average price by pinner. And we can see the more reasonable things like around Etsy are more reasonably priced at say $40 to $50. And again, we can see a familiar long tail where people post cheaper things on average, and we can see that there's a distribution here, but most things, they seem to be under $100, so it's just interesting to look at prices here, and you may find this useful for yourself. So this was a fun little experiment, but I'd like to emphasize this is a very small sample of Pinterest pins. There are billions of them, and we only analyzed about 800. So I really wouldn't draw any conclusions from this. I think this data would be more helpful if you have a very specific niche, like if you're selling something on Etsy and you want to scrape the raw data about very similar products or look for pricing patterns. You can use the approach we covered in this video to get a data set that's relevant for you in very little time with the HAR file web scraper. Please feel free to give it a try using the link in the description. And like if you learned something, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for watching. Stay amazing and stay data driven.